Come get the tea from me. LVB. Welcome back to What's the Gossip, and today we're joined by X Factor pop star and West End superstar Lloyd Daniels, who I've been friends with for over 11 years. That poor guy. Hello.
Hello.
How you doing, baby?
I'm good, thank you, doll. How are you?
I miss you.
Oh, don't even start. I've just heard your voice for the first time and I was like, this is so nice.
I know, because you forgot my birthday.
I can't forget your birthday. It's the same day every year.
You forget it every single year.
Yeah, but it's the easiest birthday to remember. I always forget it.
You scumbag. How are you? What have you been up to?
I've just been into Manchester, actually, for the day. Joel's been, he's selling his apartment, so we've been decorating that, ready for the sale. But it's looking good. It's looking lovely. What have you been up to?
So I'm literally just back from Asda. I had to go replace all of my soft drinks and mixers because I kept them out in the garden because I thought that would keep them cold.
God, what you like. All right.
But because I kept them outside, they've all skunked. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
So basically, even if the drinks are sealed outside, the sun will cook them and all the drinks went rancid.
No way.
So I had to run to Asda to replace them all.
Well, I bet there was a lot.
It was all those Don Simon drinks, like the blue raspberry.
Yeah.
I used to from all my little
God, what you like.
homemade cocktails.
Oh no, are they like £2 a bottle or something?
They're about £1 a bottle in Asda.
On discount.
Yeah, on discount. Right, Lloyd, what have you been doing in lockdown to keep yourself busy?
Oh God, where do I start? So to begin with, I, like everyone else, thought it was only going to last a couple of weeks. So I was like, this is fine. I don't need to occupy myself with anything. So I kind of didn't. And then it started lasting longer and longer and longer. And I was like, seriously, I need to do something now because music ain't coming back anytime soon.
Right, for people that don't know,
yeah,
you do porn.
No.
But back at... What?
Look, I haven't got to that point yet.
Not yet. We're getting there.
I'm not setting up on OnlyFans for at least another 6 weeks.
Oh, wait, no, hang on. These are the questions for Jake Bass. Right, who's it? Oh, yeah, Lloyd Daniels. Lloyd Daniels, right. So for people that don't know, you were actually on the X Factor.
That's right.
And I think you were also on the best season they ever had.
Yeah, we can go that far. I'm happy with that.
I mean, we had you, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Cheryl Cole was your mentor. We had Jedward, Icons, Stacey Solomon, Ollie Murs. That's an all-star lineup.
It was a big, big year. I mean, we didn't know how big it was going to be until we actually started filming. And I remember when the first auditions came out. And actually, in all honesty, we didn't know that they were going to be live audiences. So it was only like 48 hours before my actual audition that I got a call from the show. And they said, this year, we're not going to be just in front of the 4 judges. We're going to be filming in front of a live audience. Naturally, at the age of 16, I was like, ugh, not ready for this at all. Didn't know what to prepare myself for. I actually nearly pulled out so many times.
Tell me more.
No pun intended, Leigh. Don't go there. And then I did the show. And obviously, when it got to the live shows, it was absolutely mental. Like people, I think a third of the country were watching. It was absolutely nuts. And off the back of that, we did this massive tour. I remember we were kind of competing against Lady Gaga to get the most dates in the UK, and we succeeded. So we did 56 sold out arena dates, which was just phenomenal. I mean, I don't think the show has ever done anything like that since, or even prior to that, to be honest. But it was just such a big year, and nobody could have called it. It was just how it was. It just happened.
When did you start singing? When did you realize you could sing?
I never really knew, to be honest. I was on karaoke's as a kid, from probably the age of like 5, just messing about, thinking, this is what everyone does. And then I'm pretty sure I've told you this story personally, but my stepdad at the time actually auditioned for the show and got through the first 3 rounds, because there's a few rounds before you get onto the TV side of things. And they asked me to sing on the 3rd round. And I was like, I'm not here for me, I'm here for my stepdad. And they said, yeah, but we like your look, let's go with it. I just didn't have a clue what to do. So I just went in this room with 2 producers who I didn't know were producers at the time, sung about 8 seconds worth of Chris Brown With You. And they were like, here's your ticket. And I was like, oh, what's this? And it kind of, it all kind of expanded off the back of that. So I was just one of the really lucky ones.
Did your dad feel put out?
Just a bit.
And how far did he get?
That was his, that's where he got to.
Oh no, they should have put you both on the show so you could compete.
That would have been amazing. That would have been very, very good.
So when you get to the main stage, I've had someone on that was on X Factor as well. You get to pick a selection of songs. Which songs did you pick and why?
For the audition, I remember.
Was it Minch Teaser?
No, it wasn't one of yours, but that would have been great, and I'm sure it would have went down a storm. You cheeky. No, so I picked "I'm Yours" for the audition, and a song by R. Kelly called "Turn Back the Hands of Time," and they had to get the licensing agreements for them before I could actually sing them on the show. And then essentially every single week after that you kept getting through, like boot camp, judges' houses and so forth and so on. And they give you a list of songs. And while I was on it for a number of weeks, I got to, 8 shows in the live shows. So I think I did about maybe 14, 15 songs in total. So I'm not going to reel them all off, but you're more than welcome to go to YouTube and watch me terribly slay them. I mean, I'm a lot better now, I swear.
You got to sing in front of Whitney Houston.
I know, that was absolutely mental.
What was that like? Because not only did you sing in front of Whitney Houston, that was on the same day that Jedward would have sang "Oops, I Did It Again" at her. Like, what the hell was that like?
I know. And they were before me, so they went into the room before me. And I was like, oh, they're just going to steal my limelight. It's one of them things. But no, on a serious note, genuinely, every single week we were singing in front of, whoever was going to be singing on the live shows that weekend. And like I say, we were not expecting it to blow up as much as it did. So by the second week when they said we had Whitney Houston, I was like, this can't be real. Like this has got to be fake. And when she was sat there literally like meters away from me, and then she shook my hand and listened to me sing, I was like, this is just nuts. Like things like this never ever happen to anyone. Never mind me. Like it was so weird. But she was lovely. I mean, she was so nice. And she brought Clive Davis with her, which was the founder of Whitney. I mean, he basically made her a star, and that's so phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, thinking back to it now, to say I was even in the same room as her, never mind singing directly into her face, that's pretty insane.
I was there in the audience that week when she sang $1 Million Bill and her dress exploded.
Was you?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you should have seen the backstage antics.
What happened? Tell me everything.
It kicked off.
Tell me.
Just, I can't go into too much detail, but she wasn't happy, let's just say that.
With her dress?
Yeah.
Give us the tea.
Well, obviously a dress comes from somebody that's styling her, and like I say, she wasn't unhappy. So as you can imagine, you put a stylist and Whitney Houston together and a dress break-in. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, I'd have paid so much money to have seen that. What other guest judges did you have on your season of X Factor?
So on the shows, on that week, we didn't have anyone else, but we had Lady Gaga, Rihanna, Alicia Keys, Michael Bublé. There was loads. There was so many. Every single week there was someone different. With George Michael, I sang with Queen. I mean, what the hell? I literally did a song.
Does it seem like a lifetime ago?
Yes and no. Like when I think about it, it's all there. It's so detailed. If I pinpoint an exact moment, I can actually like envision myself there. Weird, but at the same time, it's been 11 years. I can't actually believe how fast that's gone. And although we've had a year of a pandemic now, like I still sing and I still absolutely love it. And I mean, you've been to plenty of my gigs. It's so cool and refreshing. It's so nice to have people react to, being on stage. Even if like back then I was doing arenas and now I'm doing, whether it's an event to 100 people or 10,000 people, I still try and give what I've got. It's great fun.
So being on one of the biggest shows in the UK, the X Factor, back in the day when that show made people superstars, what was the backstage scandals that went off? Like, is there stuff that you can't even talk about? Is there NDA signed, or what's the gossip? Give it to me now.
So I know that there's personal stuff that happened that I can't go into detail about because of things that were signed. But there was a lot that went on backstage, even like pairings you would never expect, which I also can't go into detail about because, like I say, it was a massive year and they were very on it with what we needed to sign to stop it from going to press. But what can I give away? There's a bit of scandal.
I have a bit of scandal that I remember now, but I didn't sign anything.
Yeah, I remember anything.
I can say, because I would never drop you, and you know that. I remember on X Factor tour, because I went around on a PA tour with Jedward for 3 months, and on the X Factor tour, two of them had a threesome with a fan. And do you not remember this? It was in London.
No, no, I've never heard this in my life.
I don't want to say who it was, but two of them had a threesome with a fan.
I did not know this.
And they destroyed a mattress. Oh my God. It was like all anyone talked about in the lobby.
You find out the most random things. What are you like?
But I also remember, didn't you have you had like strange fans finding your hotel room that were just knocking on the door when you were like going to bed and stuff like that? What was that like?
So that was very weird. So there was somebody in particular, I won't mention any names because I don't want to drop anyone in it. But there was one fan in particular that followed us around, and I never forget, I had a knock at my hotel room door, and I answered it, thinking that it was the room service that I'd ordered. And there was this guy stood there, and he just let himself into my room. And I was like, you do realise you're not meant to be in here. The security's downstairs. They shouldn't have let you up, X, Y, Z. And he was just like, I don't care. I've got a thing for you and I really want this to go ahead.
Weren't you like 16 at the time?
So I was 17 on the tour.
Oh my God.
Not that it makes a huge difference, but
yeah,
that year was there. And I remember being petrified. I remember like standing in my room, literally in a corner saying, can you just leave? And this guy was a bit deranged, to be honest. I mean, I'm not sure whether there was something wrong with him, but he just wouldn't leave, and he thought that I was genuinely interested. And it was probably one of the most scariest moments I've had, and felt so like kind of stuck in a position which I couldn't get out of. Yeah, I never want to go through that again, but that was dissolved quite quickly when my security guard came to the door and let himself in and sorted it out. But those moments, you can't call them, and you hope that they never happen, but unfortunately, sometimes they do. And that's the reality of it.
So while you were on the biggest show in the world, you were actually also hiding a secret that you were actually a homosexual.
That's true.
Were you told not to come out, or was that your own decision?
It was not my decision. So basically, when I was on the show, I was going through a lot of stuff. Not only my body was changing, I was getting older, my voice had dropped, all of the things that a teenage boy goes through. And then also dealing with the fact that actually I didn't know whether or not I was interested in girls. I'd had girlfriends my literally entire life, all the way up until 16. And then when I did X Factor, I met quite a lot of flamboyant people that were so confident in their own skin that were...
You talking about me?
Yeah, absolutely, of course. You opened my eyes. I said eyes, not the other one. So I literally, my eyes were opened, and I was just kind of like, this is such an amazing, world and atmosphere to be a part of, and I'm not going to shy away from it. And I just kind of I wanted to mold myself into who I genuinely thought that I'd always been, but I was kind of scared to approach that. So when I was doing the show, I came out to actually Cheryl to begin with, and she was so nice about it. And I'd only ever spoke to herself and my grandmother at this point. So my nan was the first person I told. Yeah. And I was like, are you okay with this? Are you okay with me? How am I going to tell the rest of the family? And she was just so supportive. And she was just like, she did the typical thing, which is typical of a grandmother, I suppose. It's a phase sort of thing. And I was like, I just don't know if it is. Anyway, I kind of went through the show having this secret and spoke to Cheryl about it. Cheryl said, if you need any professional help with this and you're struggling with coming to terms with it, or you need to talk to someone, then let's get that sorted. And we did. I ended up actually having a therapist during a lot of my time on the X Factor, because I didn't know how to hide the secret. I had a lot of, screaming young fans that were mainly female. Yeah. And I was going to do gigs after the show, to sold out under 18 female gigs, and they were just going nuts for it. It was great, and I wanted them to be supportive of me. But then I was thinking, I'm living on a lie at the same time. Yeah. And if they were to know the truth, would they continue to support me? And that was kind of the battle I faced for, I suppose, the foreseeable, until I actually come to terms with it doesn't matter what other people think of me, and I actually shouldn't need to necessarily come out. Yeah. I remember having a conversation with a mate in London that I was living with, and he was like, do you understand that if you came out at this point, you'd be, helping so many young lads that are struggling with their sexuality? And I felt a lot of weight from that. I was kind of like, mate, I'm not coming out for the sake of someone else. I'd be coming out for myself. And you don't see people have like straight parties, like you're coming out as a straight person. So like, why should I do it for the fact that I like the same sex? It just doesn't make sense to me. And that's why I didn't up until quite recently, really. I've never as such hid it since about 2014, 2015.
You're very subtext about it.
Yeah,
I feel like if you look for it, you can see it. I think because obviously I've known you now 11 years.
Yeah.
I feel like you didn't announce it, but you didn't deny it either. I think it was just always there in front of everyone's face if they wanted to see it.
Definitely. That's exactly almost how I wanted to come across as well. Not that I was playing a game as such. It was more of a, if you know me and you know me well enough, then you're entitled to know. But also, if you follow me and you read into things, you'll know about it anyway. And that was kind of just a massive step, like to not talk about it and help other people was the thing that I regretted the most. Because I know, especially when I did that gay time shoot when I was like 17, I could have talked about it then and it would have been a whole game changer. I would have been seen in a completely different light. And the fact that I did that magazine in the first place was such a huge step for me and my character and like who I was becoming. I think if I had talked about it then, it would have gone a completely different route to what it had.
Looking back on it, do you kind of wish that you'd just done it from the jump?
It's hard. Like, yes and no. I mean, yes, because I wouldn't have felt the need to hide it for the first number of years. Genuinely hide it. I was scared to talk about who I was with. I was scared to like meet people new, for relationships or whatever it may be. I just didn't know how to approach that. Like to this day, I've not been on a dating app. I've never been on one. So I've never experienced that. And I think if I was more open about it, I might have dabbled with dating apps, you know what I mean? Just to like get to know people and meet people and be my authentic self. But I just didn't put myself in that position. So I guess that would be the reason that I would have wanted to have done it, I suppose, to live, let's say, a normal gay life. But at the same time, to a certain extent, I'm glad I didn't because I've stood my ground. I feel like I've kind of just been myself in a different way, and people have just found out naturally as opposed to me doing a coming out story. Then
I've met you a few times while you were on X Factor, but we didn't actually become friends until we were backstage at a gig in Sheffield when I was with Natalie, who was with Same Difference. Yeah. And you and me bonded while we were having a cheeky fag in the car park. Do you remember?
Yeah, those are the days.
You told me there and then. And I was just like, okay, cool. And do you remember we went back to that hotel?
Yeah.
Who was it? And I ended up sleeping in the hotel room of some guy that was Westlife's tour manager. I think his name's Preston. Do you know who I'm on about?
No idea. No.
Oh my God. So I slept in this man's room. He's married. He's got kids. We did nothing, but he played a Westlife album on repeat the entire night while we were trying to sleep because he said it's what relaxes him. And I was thinking, this is so bizarre. And then the following morning, do you remember we were in the garden?
I'm trying to picture this.
And
now.
you just dropped your trousers.
Was I still drunk?
I assume so. And you just dropped, and I was just sat there going, this lad is crazy. And I thought, yeah, this will be one of my friends. Now look at us, 11 years later. You don't remember that at all, do you?
I feel like it's coming back to me now, but I do think that maybe I was slightly hungover.
You were like, I've got a single coming out, and you played it on your phone. It was Crazy.
Oh, my days, yeah.
Something like that.
Oh, my days.
Oh, actually, I remember the verse. Yeah, I know, you and I, you could be my girl, I could be.
Just like that. Just like that.
Girl.
I remember it now.
You sang it in a Welsh accent. Girl. So you went off on a PA tour.
Yeah.
I think Jedward left the show before you, didn't they?
Yeah.
I went on the PA tour with them. So we did like all the nightclubs up and down the country. And then you came out and did the same tour. What was that like going all over the country back to back? Because I know with Jedward, it was a frenzy every single place we went to. There was cars following the car. Girls everywhere. But what was that like for you, being that you were secretly gay? So
I think that was the most difficult thing. So let's start with the actual tour in itself. Like when I got all of these PAs, I was thinking, this is just nuts. And the money that was coming in off them as well. As you know, what I was earning back then, it was just insane amounts of money, especially for a 16, 17-year-old. And, sometimes, as you know, you were doing like anything between 2 and 4 gigs a day on average. For the first like 4 or 5 months. It was absolutely nuts. And I think the one thing for me was the under 18s were fine because I was allowed to go into the actual club and mix. Like I was allowed to have the meet and greet photos taken as normal, and I felt like I could be the artist that I wanted to be in those moments. But then as soon as I got to a club or past a certain hour and I was performing on stage that was to a bunch of over 18s, so 18 plus, I wasn't allowed to mix. I wasn't allowed to actually go, into the actual audience or have a drink or anything like that because I was still under 18. I mean,
did they let you anyway?
No, a lot of places didn't know. Like I used to sneak drinks off the table backstage, and they definitely weren't for me. I don't even know if they knew I was doing it. My tour manager used to keep it on the down low, but
wasn't it Alec?
No, that wasn't Alec at that point. Actually, I'd had about 5 tour managers before Alec. Yeah, I used to rotate most of them, but they were lovely guys. I was really lucky to be working with who I was working with. But yeah, the gay clubs were the first time and first experience I'd ever had. Never mind performing, but actually being in one and being surrounded by that sort of like atmosphere, and these people that I'd never been so close to and in contact with, I suppose. I did want to get in the clubs. I'm not gonna lie. I wanted to get in, start dancing, and just have a wild one and just enjoy myself. But that come a year later. I just got involved with it all. I loved it. Made a lot of friends in that circuit. That really, still friends now. They're like family. They look after me, and that's how it's always been. So I've not missed out on that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I couldn't be myself, I suppose, to a certain extent. So. Yeah, the touring was nuts. I really wanted to be a part of it from the get-go anyway. It was what I wanted to do before I went on the show. So it was amazing.
My favourite PA tour that we did was, do you remember the weekend in Glasgow?
Oh, there's been many. Remind me.
So we did a club on the Friday, and then on the Saturday we had to do an under 18s, and then we went across to a bar that was like hosting us, and then we had to go to a club to do the over 18s up the street. And we had this guy that was showing us around, but his accent was so thick that he was going, and I was like, just fucking point. So anyway, we got to the under 18s gig, and because I was over 18, I wasn't allowed in the club, so I had to stay backstage the whole entire time while you're performing.
Yeah.
And then when you went to go do the meet and greet, one of the promoters handed me a microphone, was like, get up on stage and sing. So while you were doing your meet and greet, I was on the stage screaming Under the Sea from The Little Mermaid and The Saturday's Up. And all your fans boycotted your queue to come chanting my name, going Leigh, 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 and your face was a picture. And then when we left the venue to go to the next bar, we had to walk up the high street, and all the fans were chasing us up the street, shouting my name, and you were like, these are my fans, not yours.
That's so funny. I actually remember that.
My fans.
It was called The Garage. That does not surprise me. You literally shine above everyone wherever you go.
I just take over, don't I?
Yeah. It's not a bad thing. It's quite a skill set. Those were the days.
Those were the days. My other favourite one we did was, do you remember we did the black and white ball for the Nightingale in Birmingham, and they had a catwalk show?
Oh yeah, I remember this.
I literally launched some woman out of the way, and I was marching up and down this catwalk like I owned the place, and the filthy looks I was getting off everyone.
You love them though, don't you?
I love it. As soon as someone says no, I'm like, yes, I must do it. So in the midst of all these PA tours and the X Factor tour, you had a single in the works called Crazy. Was that a demo that you just recorded, or was there a record deal in the works?
So that was more of a demo to begin with. So basically I signed with this management deal. It was kind of like a independent label, you could say. And I went over to Hamburg in Germany to record an entire album. So I've actually got an entire album that's just sat there. It's obviously dated now. But
do you still have it?
Yeah, still have it.
Send it to me.
I will. So I've got, I think it's 11 tracks in total. Anyway, Crazy was the single that was meant to get released in February time, and had it all set up. The management were going ahead with it. The label were happy with it, and it been produced and really, really well, actually. And it was about to be released, and I was like, it's not being released. What's going on? Why isn't this lifted off like I was meant to? I'd advertised to everyone on social media that it was going to be released for a certain date, and it didn't happen. So as you can imagine, I was confused and either 17 or 18, and I just did this stupid thing of going, well, I'm going to leave now. I'm going to leave this management and this label because they're not doing what they say. And I just took it really, really badly. And then I got a hefty fine for leaving a deal that I had in place. I mean, really hefty, which was a lot. I mean, for somebody so young,
Yeah.
you always revert. I always revert back to that excuse because that's the only excuse I suppose I have. I didn't have the experience behind me, and I didn't really know what I was like pulling myself in and out of. But yeah, I pulled out of this deal, and it cost me an absolute fortune. I remember sitting in my apartment in Manchester, just looking over this like river, this beautiful view that I had. I was sat in like a penthouse apartment. I was like, how the hell has it got to this? Like, what's just happened? And how have I spent like X amount of tens of thousands of pounds just to get out of this deal? And I don't actually have anything to show for it because nothing got released. Oh, it was so frustrating.
What was the reasoning for it not being released?
Well, there was a big artist releasing the same week, and they'd basically announced that like a day or two before the release of my single. So the management, I suppose, they just got a bit scared, and they were like, we really want this to do well and get top 10. And with artists like this releasing, you don't really stand a chance type thing.
Yeah.
It made me feel like, I suppose, they didn't have any faith in me. But also, like you've known me for years now, I don't do things necessarily to get attention. I do things to try and like please other people. And the whole point of me releasing this song and the album, if it was to have gone ahead, wasn't for me to make money. It was all to do with me just like putting something out there for the people that had supported me since back when.
Yeah.
And that is like the God's honest truth. So that was what was most frustrating from my end. But these things happen, and I'm like a small fish in a massive pond, and this happens to so many artists I can't even explain. And it's essentially probably the way that some parts of this industry still keep going, because they do this to people, and then people pull out and they get a lot of money out of it. That's just the reality of this business from some ends.
But I remember back in the day, I don't know if you remember this, but your song actually went viral on Twitter. Do you remember someone had recorded you performing it, and it got like, I think it was like 11,000 hits in the weekend.
Yeah.
And at the time, that was a really big thing. And I remember thinking, oh my God, his song's going to be massive.
Yeah.
And then obviously we did that PA tour. So I heard it like 80,000 fucking times that weekend. But then for it to just vanish, and then basically your album got scrapped.
Yeah.
So what point then did you go, I'm going to go release this other album, which was obviously the Surburbian Girl EP?
Yeah, so I released Surburbian Girl after that. So basically, when I pulled out of this management deal, obviously lost a lot of money, had all of this music just sat aside that I genuinely could not do anything with. Bear in mind, I've signed a deal memo to say that I wouldn't mention who wrote the songs, but there was massive artists writing for that album. Really recognizable artists and songwriters from all over the world. I was very, very lucky and fortunate. And then I had a management from Scotland actually contact me and said, we're a small management. We work with a number of radio stations, and we're really interested in doing some work with you. So they wrote 4 or 5 tracks, and it turned into an EP, which was called Surburbian Girl. Now, this was around about 10 months later. So as you can imagine, over time, obviously, you become less noticed as such. I was still gigging and doing quite a lot of shows, but if I'd released it 10 months earlier, it would have done a lot better. But it still got top 40, which I was thrilled with. I was so happy with the fact that it even charted. And like I say, from the get-go, I wasn't doing it for me as such. I was doing it so that people could have something to listen to, the people that liked my voice at least.
Do you think the success is entirely down to the fact that you were heavily promoted by Sexpot Sharon and Bev Solis?
Oh, well, I have a lot of my career to owe to them, to be honest. Are they still on Twitter?
She used to call it Surburbian Girl, innit?
Yeah.
And what was Bev Solis's catchphrase? It was frig my... I can't say the word on
You
here.
can't say it. You can't say it.
Oh, she was my favourite. Who was your favourite, Sexpot or Bev?
I liked Sexpot. It was the Manchester wit. I just loved it. I actually know the person that runs those accounts. He's
Adam, innit?
No, you're not allowed to name him.
Oh, sorry. So you released Surburbian Girl, and it's a hit in its own right. At what point did you decide to become the Mariah Carey of UK Pride? So Mariah's got Christmas, Lloyd Daniels has Gay Pride.
So I remember in 2010 or 2011? No, it was 2011. I got offered to do London Pride, and I was so close to turning it down. Not because I didn't want to do it. It was just the management that at that point said, London Pride aren't offering a fee, whereas you've been offered this other show up north, and they've offered you X amount of money. And I was like, London Pride is a huge thing, right? You need to do it if you offered it. There's not many artists that manage to do that in their lifetime.
Yeah.
And they were just like, right, okay, just, do what you want. So went down to London, booked a hotel for the weekend, had an absolute blast. And obviously at this point, this is when I started becoming more comfortable with who I was. And I kind of did want to mix with crowds and be a part of let's say, the gay scene. And I just absolutely loved that weekend. I remember from start to finish, driving down from Manchester, staying at was I at the Hilton, I think? It was just a really beautiful hotel anyway. And just performing to Trafalgar Square, and it was just absolutely nuts. Like, I loved every single second of it. And then off the back of that, one gig, this little did the management know, I got offered something like 30 or 40 prides for the following year. And I was like, this is insane. Like, once you've started the pride circuit, it doesn't stop. And what everyone's witnessed this in the gay community. It is literally a community. It's like, yes, there's the bitching, there's the arguing, and there's all the in-between. But at the end of the day, it's a safe place. Yeah. And when you go to these pride events, you feel so welcomed and included, whether you're straight, gay, bi, anything on the spectrum. It's just such a nice vibe and such a nice thing to be a part of. And every single year, as soon as one pride comes along, I end up booking 10 more. And it's just freaking amazing. I can't put it into words how much I'm thankful for the pride circuit. If anything, they've kept my career going to a certain extent.
Mariah Carey has Christmas. You've got gay prides.
That's it. That is it.
You do 4 million prides a year. Yeah. What was it like in the last year not being able to perform at a single pride?
This is what hit hard this year, I think. When obviously the lockdown happened from March, at that point, I had about 8 or 9 prides booked in for this last year, so 2020, and they were all from around about June onwards.
Yeah.
So naturally, I was just like, this is fine. Like, I'm going to be able to do them because obviously we're in March, and surely this is going to end like by then. And then I remember the prides contacting me and saying, with government guidelines and the council giving us the notifications that we can't go ahead this year, we'll have to push back a year. Now, I pushed a majority of the prides back to this year, but obviously, how can you plan a year in advance at that point?
Yeah.
I was just like, I can't do this. I might be on tour with a musical theatre show or something else. You just never know. So it was really hard not to be able to perform this year. And actually, I didn't do a gig all the way up until, I believe it was like November. Might have been a little bit earlier. And I did a gig on the West End for this producer called Tom Dewan, which he produces a show called Roles Will Never Play. So it's essentially West End and theatre folk that like perform, songs that they'd never be able to perform on the West End.
Yeah.
And that was my first gig, and I was absolutely bricking it. I remember standing side stage thinking, I am so out of my comfort zone and out of my depth right now. Bear in mind, like, I've done gigs all my life, pretty much. It's all I've known now. And I was petrified. And I just went out and did my thing and loved it. But at the same time, you should never take that much of a gap. And it's such a shame that this pandemic has done this to so many people.
I remember the first couple of weeks of lockdown, we were on the phone and like you'd lost all your gigs, but I was going on the drag race tours. I was supposed to be going to like Australia and things like that. We were like, maybe this will only last a couple of weeks, maybe a month at push. But we were like, we'll definitely be back doing what we were, planned to do in August. Yeah. And it's been a whole complete reset of the industry.
Yeah, totally. And like, I know some of the drag race stars myself, and I was like, when I was contacting them about the pandemic, because they had plans to come over from America to the UK to obviously do like a lot of the Manchester and London scene. And they were just like, I can't come. Like, I can't even get on a plane, never mind come over and do my thing. And it's really hit hard. And, people that are in this industry, a majority of them haven't even been supported, which is such a bad way of, representing the arts, essentially. The government haven't done a very good job of that at all. You see these things, 1.5 billion and then 400 million they've just put into it again. But the people, people like me don't see that directly. So I mean, it's a huge shame, but we choose this career, and we think that we're going to get support from the government and stuff like that, but sometimes you don't, and that's the reality of it.
So you diverted from a pop career, and then you took yourself to theatre. Obviously, before we get to porn, you went to theatre. What was the catalyst for you deciding to take that route with your career?
So I got offered a West End show almost off the back of X Factor, and I turned it down. And the reason for turning it down was because I was doing so many gigs. Yeah. But I also turned it down because my friend that I was very close to at the time, she just graduated from a musical theatre college. And she said, you do realise that if you take this job, theatre people will look down on you. And I was like, what? And she said, honestly, people have trained for 3 years and worked their arse off for years after that in audition rooms to get these roles. If you just take it, then they're going to think you're taking the mick. Like, it's one of those things.
Yeah.
So I really thought about it long and hard, and I was like, I can't just take this role from somebody that genuinely deserves it. Like, the more I've been involved in the industry now, I understand that they do actually need people from TV shows and stuff like that to sell tickets.
It's the headliner, isn't it?
Yeah, they need to sell tickets at the end of the day. And yes, a lot of them are not anywhere near as talented as some of the people that are on stage, including myself. So I waited for about 5 years before even considering doing theatre after that comment my mate made. And then I got invited down to London to do an audition directly in front of Bill Kenwright, who'd been focusing on my career for a number of years and seeing me develop over the years, and said to himself, I'm ready to see him. And then it just went from there. Like, did Joseph for 2 contracts, absolutely loved it. I felt like it was the perfect role for me. And then I've done pantos from the get-go anyway, so I've always done some sort of theatre. I think I've been a part of like 14 of them now. But all these little musicals came in, and I did quite a few, and I absolutely loved them. Like, they were really good to be a part of. Really nice to see a different dynamic as to how people work in the industry.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just another notch on my belt, basically. Something I wanted to do for myself.
Do you know what the best thing about being friends with you is?
What?
I got to spend a week with Nikki fucking Graham.
Oh, God.
What was that like? Because she is an absolute icon. She's a legend, isn't she?
Yeah, she literally, everybody that walks past that woman stops because they know her. Everybody.
So what was it like?
Well, just... so I suppose we need to go into a bit of detail, don't we? So I got offered a naked comedy where I travelled around the country and basically got down to my boxers in this play. It was really good. It was
called Up for Me.
Yeah, it was really good fun, actually. And it was all based around a dating app. But anyway, Nikki was somebody that was one of the characters in it, and she actually played her own character because they were just like, we can't take out of who she is, we just have to use it and really like dial into the fact that she's Nikki Graham and use that as a character. And she was just phenomenal. But I shared digs with her, I shared hotels with her, the lot, and we got along so well. And by the end of the tour, I knew her inside out, and she knew me inside out. And she knew my weaknesses, same vice versa. I knew her strengths, same vice versa. And I mean, it was a lot of fun and a lot of, well, let's just say I was knackered by the end of it. One of my favorite moments, because she is, everything she said and did is ingrained in my mind. My mind just recorded everything in HD. Like, I was thinking, I can't forget a single moment of this. Was we got to the venue, I think it was about half an hour before the last show in Birmingham. Yeah. And she was nowhere to be found. And she'd come out of the hotel, and instead of walking left, she walked right and ended up on a motorway. Do you remember this? And she was at a petrol station. Oh, dear.
Because she got lost. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I do remember this.
She had me help her steal a radiator from the lobby of this hotel to bring to her room. That is Nikki.
That's Nikki. That's how she is. Oh, she's great. She's an absolute darling as well, though. She's so nice.
Are you still in touch with her?
I haven't been in touch with her, for a while. I think the last time I spoke to her was about 2 years ago now. I mean, this is the thing. You do all these shows, and I've worked with probably thousands of people, over the last 10 years, if not, well, yeah, we're definitely talking thousands. And you do stay in touch with a lot of people for some amount of time, but it's not always long term unless you actually become really good friends. Now, me and Nikki get along like a house on fire. We can go out, we can have a party, we can have a sleepover, we can do all these like cool things friends do, and it's lovely. But the reality was, at the same time, it was work, so you don't stay in contact with everyone. It just is what it is.
So you were on the biggest show in the UK. You've crossed paths with a lot of celebrities, but who was the worst one you've ever met?
Okay, I'm not going to say the name. However, I will say that she is from a girl band, and they were absolutely huge when we were kids. The biggest girl band in the world, maybe. And that's all I'm going to say. And she was very, very rude.
Was she very posh?
No.
Was she a bit scary?
Potentially.
Do you know I met her outside a hotel and she was sat on the floor having a fag?
I said potentially. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to say anything else.
Right. So what's your goals coming out of lockdown? What's on the horizon for you?
So,
porn.
No, Leigh, we can't revert to porn. I'm not ready yet.
Yet?
No, yet. So off the back of lockdown, to be honest, first off, I need to go and see my family. I've not seen them for months. And I know that sounds like a really cliche thing to say, but I'm desperate to see my nan.
Yeah.
Like, I can't wait to wrap my arms around my nan and give her a good touch. So that's something I'm looking forward to. But more so than anything, I actually think I want to go into like creating shows, like the artistic side of it, rather than just the performing side of it.
Yeah.
Maybe helping put shows together and just working with some really cool people and getting out there and singing again. I think that's kind of kind of aim low and hope that it sets high, essentially. That's what I'm looking forward to.
What about music? Are we going to get any more music out of it?
I don't think so. I don't think anytime soon I'm going to be looking at doing, my own stuff.
I think you should do electro. I think like years and years. I think you'd be great doing that.
I mean, that is something I'm interested in. And I really want to I would love to get inside a studio and just work with someone that's so cool and quirky and hasn't been heard before, and just kind of like let them do their thing and make them up with lyrics that work over it.
Yeah.
That would be my ideal situation of releasing something. But yeah, I haven't got my heart set on that. I would love to do a bit of theatre again. And I love gigging, as you know. I absolutely love getting on stage and just performing. So I need to do a bit of that, bit of singing, maybe some videos, not porn.
Yet.
And then go from there. Basically, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Have you got any gay prides on the horizon?
I did. I got some that got moved over, and again they've cancelled because a lot of them were in May, and they don't know whether the social distancing is going to be adequate at that point. So we'll see.
And have you got any projects on the horizon that you can tell me about?
Not currently, no, I haven't. So I'm basically quite boring, momently.
And if people want to find the OnlyFans, where is it?
It will be uploaded in 24 and a half years' time.
24 and a half years' time?
Yep.
Oh, Lloyd, no.
Fine, because people will go back to this interview and they'll be like, it's been 24 and a half years. He promised it to us. It's going to happen.
Oh, TikTok, you don't stop. Right, Lloyd, that was great talking to you. I miss you so much.
I miss you too.
Oh, right. Well, thanks for coming on.
No, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, boy.
Right then, go on. Fuck off.
Oh, God, you're terrible.
Thanks, babes.
No, you're welcome, Rog.
Right. Oh, I love
Lots
you.
of
Love you too. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, love. Bye.
Come get the tea from me. LVB.